Welcome to Prerona TV Canada on behalf of Global Academy of Holistic Leadership and Prerona TV, and in collaboration with UIREC and Global Scholarship. This is a joint collaboration series that we are running for quite some time, and we are very happy that this is our 23rd episode. And we are very happy with partnership of Global Scholarship. We are reaching our community members. So our series is Education, Immigration, and Recruitment Speaker Series. And today's our topic is Why Knowledge Matters. We are very delighted to have a very special guest with us. And he is none other than Yannick Moller. And he's from Montreal, Quebec. I think uh, I will briefly introduce him. I don't know him personally, but I will let him introduce himself. But before that, I'll just let you know that who he is. Um, he has a lot of backgrounds. Uh, if I understand correctly, he is actually came from Canberra, Australia, and currently, he is a teaching and learning specialist at McGill University, and academically, organizationally, he's helping uh, the community members a lot. So he has a lot of backgrounds. I think he will share with us in terms of conflict studies, and also he is also studied in like a teaching and learning at McGill University, and also currently he is actually providing a teaching specialization services at McGill University. And he's also other background when he came here, playing his first ice hockey game in professional Swiss league at the age of 16, completing 3 years diploma in commerce, and then he determination and strive for excellence of in rink. He then worked for several years in local and international company throughout Switzerland, French, German, Roto, Romanic part, sorry if I misspell, before pursuing to honors and BA conflict studies in Ottawa, St. Paul, while doing his an exchange year at the Australian National University, Canberra, Australia. Ultimately, he decided to acquire in skill to equip people to succeed by pursuing MA in teaching and learning at McGill University. Now, whether personally, academically, and organizationally, Yannick helps you to provide you edge needed in ever-changing and competitive world. I will now, before actually Yannick comes, I will, introduce also Mr. Borua. He is actually our collaborative partner. So I will let him introduce himself first, and then I will come back to Yannick. So Mr. Borua is he's a Asia Pacific region. He look after at the global scholarship, and he do consult on global scholarship, and he lives in Ottawa, Ontario. So I will invite Mr. Shourab to say a few words before we go back to Mr. Yannick. Mr. Borua.
Yes, thank you, Edward, and welcome to our audience, and especially our today's special guest, Yannick Muller. He is my wonderful friend. I'm very delighted to get him today with our session. And what I'm saying to me, this is Shourab, and you already mentioned that I'm representing global scholarship, especially in Asia Pacific region, which one I am representing. The global scholarship actually is self-introductory. We are promoting the information regarding global scholarship all over the world. And being an initiative from the Ottawa, Canada, we are all the time promoting or prioritizing or promoting the Canadian educational institution scholarship information, or study abroad, or fellowship, internship, international volunteering. That kind of info domain people can get in one domain, and our audience will be getting and reaching the scholarship related or education related a bunch of information. and updated information we all the time provide. So that's all. I think we'll be talk later on. I mean, when the session is started. Uh, Now, again, I am welcoming to our audience. Please follow us, and we'll be providing relevant, lots of updated information you'll be getting from us. Thank you.
Now, I would like to welcome Mr. Yannick. I think you, what we are looking for, if you can introduce yourself, and especially, we are very eager to know what's your area of expertise, and you're saying that the why knowledge matters. So we'd like to know more about it. And it's very interesting. We have gone through your Twitter and your YouTube channel, and we have a lot of followers. So we're very happy to, that you are here with us. So we'd like to hear from you, Mr. Moeller.
Thank you so much, Edward, for inviting me and Jorov. It's just a great initiative, and I love the work you're doing. Really, thank you so much. I watched and listened to a few episodes before, and I really love it. So I just want to commend you on this great initiative, and obviously also to all your followers. It's just a plus to always be with you. And obviously also I want to thank you, Shorov. He's such a dear friend. I was so fortunate to get to know him a few years ago. So we worked on a project that was funded by the government of Ontario. I had the huge honor to actually working with him. He is such a great guy. He is such a smart guy, and he has so many good ideas, and he's plenty of energy. So I'm super happy, and I really look forward, hopefully also with you, Edward, to work together and build something and to help people and the world, to make this a better place. So this is just at the very onset. That's very important. Secondly, obviously, the most important thing is always if you have a listeners, if you have an audience, and it shows a lot if people go and actually listen to things like this, because it just shows and demonstrates the quality that you are delivering and the important work that you are doing. And now, a little bit briefly, so I don't want to take too much time tonight, but it's called Why Knowledge Matters. And obviously, already there is a question already that is implied in this statement. And we all know how important it is, but also at the same time, how challenging it is in these times, in a post, if you wish, in a post modern area, to actually justify knowledge, in some way or another. So I think we going through extremely challenging times, and I think it's only the very beginning. The Western world, in Europe and all over in North America, there's a lot of disruption that's going on. There's a lot of changes, very, very important changes that take place. But also, there's always the question, also, how we go about it. Okay, so there's a lot of things that are actually at stake, let alone developing countries that also obviously struggle with also other challenges, in so many ways. Therefore, for us, it was really important to actually, you know, contribute in one way or another, to the dissemination of knowledge. In other words, today, on the one hand, we have this incredible, powerful um, social media like technology that facilitates all kinds of exchange throughout the world, which is fantastic. For example, um, just the fact that I met Chorov and his friends, for example, in Ottawa, and this wonderful Bengali community that they basically became family for me, is just evidence enough to me how enriching it is actually, globalization in a positive way. But on the other hand, um, it also allows to disseminate informations that might be plainly false. However, because it is online, you can you can show, or you can make up something that might seem as valid as knowledge that is actual knowledge. And therefore, we said that that's something important, and we want to invite people of all kinds of walks of life, from academics to people who did amazing work, for example, in charities or in professional life or in business, and to actually give them a platform to share this knowledge, how they went about it, how they became successful in some way or another. It always depends, obviously, how you define success, but in generally, people who try or have contributed um, in one way or another to make this world a better place. And so this is um, why knowledge matter is important, because we want to share a good message from all kinds of worldviews, disciplines, and obviously also continents. Yeah. And there, the goal is really in a dialogic sense, in that it is really through words. In other words, we try to make new meaning out of very different views. Okay. And I think today, as we know, the changes and everything is so fast. We need the dialogue. We need to listen to one another, because if we don't, then we have incredible disruption. We have conflict. And it's just ongoing. And but also, I'm well aware, and as we all know, it is also very, very difficult. It's not easy. There's a lot of at stake. People have different beliefs, people have different mindset, people have different upbringings, right? So what we are trying to do is really building bridges, between continents, across cultures, religions, and all kinds of people. Yeah. And we are also not afraid to actually give. And that's why it's so important, also the emphasis on worldviews. We don't want to have a platform where we necessarily only display a certain view of the world, right? So we want to have different perspective, whether from the right, from the left, from the middle. Obviously, it always has to be reasonable, and it has to be contributing in a meaningful and important way, in order to make this world a better place for for all of us.
Yes, thank you very much. I do have a couple of questions actually coming up. Um, well, going through, right, because as we are going through, there are a couple of issues that we need to address. As you know, we are currently going through a very everything is changing. What standard norms we used to have because of pandemic, like this, like everything is now in a very different now perspective. Even though that still we are following, as usual the other practices, but because of pandemic we have new norms, new practices. Now, in context of current challenging environment, what do you think for community member can take lessons like this knowledge, right? Things, and how they can build this resilience among themselves. Because right now we need strong community. We need strong community. We need community with confidence, community with power, community we can help each other. So when we need that one, we need we we know that knowledge is power. So we need power. We need to we need to be power so that we can help others. So in context to that, what do you think the right local communities can take a lesson from this, from your presentation or from your experience, what you have gone through? Is there any lessons that currently we can take?
Well, there are many, but I will start first and foremost with a personal kind of anecdote, and then I will go and switch a little bit to, for example, participation and participatory action research, for example. That is very, I think, very critical, in these days especially. Now, what I think, um, that the time that we are going through is extremely demanding, and I can't complain too much. I'm in a sense, I'm very fortunate, but also myself, I struggle also a lot, so it is really hard. And what I really learned, through this pandemic, like first and foremost, is that relationships, like human relationship, this is what defines us, which is absolutely critical. I see it how affects my health, friends' health, so critical. If we have these one-to-one interactions, we just feel that we strive. There is something there which is extremely, extremely powerful, which also shows us the limits of technology in an interconnected world, which is amazing. Now we can communicate in that way, right? However, it has also limitations in that we do not have the same, it doesn't have the same power as, for example, if we meet in person. I think this is something very important, and this really, to me, shows how important family is. Values of family and how important it is, and especially community. Family and then the community as a whole. Okay, as a support system. Uh, this is this is this is so key to me. Now, a community, I think it is really, and there are so many pitfalls that obviously we face, during this period, right? I mean, it's one thing to say it, in theory, but then in actuality, to actually implement it, it's a whole new challenge. But it's really trying to foster and to keep the communication, especially when it comes, within the community, to just to keep these open, always talk and have these exchanges all the time. I think this is extremely, extremely important. And then also what can really emerge is, and what is actually emerging more and more also in academia, is really, participatory action research, which actually is done by people living in those community affected by it, and which is not just a research in an academic way, but which actually means, as the word implies, which is actually participating, in the change, and at the same time doing research, but also impacting the community in a positive way. So this is, I think, something that is very important, and which is more and more, I think, um, coming up, that people are doing. I mean, when I see Wojorov, the fantastic work that he does, and with his colleagues, for example, in Ottawa, this is really what it is, right? So they have amazing community that they were able to put in place with Bangla, Caravan, and all these people, this network there, which is this incredible, living organism that is so present and that everyone feels at home. This is one example that I find it just yeah, fantastic, and that really has to be emphasized. So yeah.
So one of the things that's very interesting that you mentioned is participative, the approach or the engagement, right? So, and there are a couple of communities are involved into the process. I'm actually right. There are many, I know the topic that you are discussing is very broad in a sense, but our, because we are much involved in the community, I would rather prefer to take a community approach in, and why it mattered to community. That's what I was interested. I know there are many areas that we can discuss why knowledge matters. All right, in academic, in industry, in economy, in politics, in policy making. There are many areas that we can discuss about why knowledge matters. But one of the important things that you discussed, which is I really liked it, it is the engagement of the community member, the participations that they're doing, and then what you're looking for change, the societal change is happening, so which is very important. And then you also mentioned positive, right? So what we are striving for, we are making this positive outcome, that because we want to bring that positive vibe, and see how we can make this change. So which is very interesting. I think that's taking a lesson, right? You are from your approach and presentations. I'm very interested, right, to know more about it. Now, I know there are a lot of challenges when you call for participations. Mr. Borua has been involved in many philanthropic or many activities, community activities. I know there are many activities. I know when there are community members are involved, right? So that's really good, and we also encourage others, community members, to come forward. Means anywhere in Canada, right? You are from East Coast, we're from West Coast, on East Coast, Ontario, Quebec, whatever, and we're from Alberta. So like anywhere you go, I think Canada is a multicultural society, right? So there are many communities that are involved, and I believe there is a strong sense of community, uh, within how we can build this community, and that's really interesting. So I would be more interested to know that how you can use those examples or those strategies building our communities. Mr. Borua, I will just go back from Mr. Yannick to Mr. Borua and see, is there anything that you'd like to share with us, that how we can use those tools or strategy for building our community? If you can share maybe your experience working with the community.
Thank you again. And okay, thank you again. Today I am feeling just exactly. Think when we start or plan to launch this kind of to contribute knowledge making industry. Yes, really we are contributing to do a little bit, to make the knowledge making industry. The way how Yannick actually thinking, or his thought process, or his presentation expression is really it is looks like philosophical discussion today we are doing here. On the other hand, is practical learning from practical action resource experience. So when he sharing his experience, he all the time mentioned when we work together in a project, community project in Ottawa. Really, my observation or realization also same to Yannick. Whenever communication is or anyway, the community engagement is more powerful. I mean, whenever we are thinking that, okay, we are planning to do an event, whatever it is, mm, there we, first of all, we are thinking that where the budget will become, where the manpower will be come. Engagement is we really, I mean, fulfill the community engagement or reaching the community, then this kind of thinking would not be working. I mean, community will take the responsibility or I mean, share their responsibility to each other, and then we'll reaching our target or goal easily. So it's proven that whenever we are, I can also share with Yannick. I mean, when we work together in a project, it's actually multilingual project. I mean, international mother language day related project in Ottawa. It's an provincial
Mr. Boru, I think we can, there is a disturbance on your network. I think you can turn off the video and we can hear you. Maybe you are having an issue with your network. Yannick, can you hear Mr. Boru? I can't hear him.
No, I can't.
Okay, so I think Mr. Borua, I'm gonna mute you. Okay, so
Still,
yeah, so we'll come back to Mr. Borua because we can hear you. So uh, we'll just come back, go back to Mr. Yannick. If you can share with us what we are actually discussing, if you have any thoughts. Then I have another questions when you can continue. And I have another question after that. So yes, Mr. Yannick, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. So
Yes.
what do you want me to do now?
No, right. I was the discussion that we are talking about the how we can build resilience to the community means build a strong community using this wide knowledge.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power, as I know, and then as we know actually, so we can use we can actually use the knowledge. So my question is, from your experience, share with us how we can build strong community. That's the question that we are discussing right now, or that's the issue that we're discussing right
Mm.
now. So
I, I I firmly believe that it all comes first and foremost. It's really about communication. It's really, it's absolutely key, and that's also what we are trying to some extent do with Why Knowledge Matter, because it's about dialogue. The thing is that we all have different upbringings. We all have different way how we look at things, but I think that that is not really the issue. The issue usually is really that we don't understand usually the other, why they do things they do the way they do things. And I think when we can really um, be very very um, persistent, especially when it comes within the community, that we actually talk, exchange, and have those small gatherings, whether there are small communities who have specific interests about cultural, for example, Bangla Caravan or others, but that we are ongoingly, reflect um, within and outside the community what we actually can improve and what the issues are, and think about how we can potentially address these challenges that we face within or among communities. I think that is really important.
my another question is like because we um, you were involved means you have had some studies or you were involved in the McGill University. I was wondering, right, what is actually implications of this knowledge matter to policy level or policy advocacy level? Just if you can explain to the audience in a very simpler, right, examples or your experience, if you can share with us, because we need actually a lot of policy advocacy. As we know, we are working with the government, we are working with the municipalities, government, provincial government, federal government. There are a lot of layers, things. So how we can work, or how the policy level works actually.
Well, I think one thing is which is so important is that we also have to be aware that knowledge is not something that just comes from top down. It's also, especially when you look at the societies we live in, and more actually, that if it is a top down approach, then we just don't figure things out properly, and we do terrible mistakes actually to communities. So therefore, I think it's really important that communities, that they know that they are absolutely critical when it comes to knowledge production, or at least informing policymakers um, to to steer policies or action in one or another way. I think this is really important. So this is, and that you see especially right now, there are so many challenges that we face when you have like a sanitary crisis as we face right now. Then a government can't really solve a problem, because usually a situation like this arrives maybe every 100 years, right? And it's impossible, because you have so many issues that you actually have to address. So therefore, you can just see now how important communities are to actually address um, issues like COVID. In very simple things like communication, or make sure that people follow to some extent the rules, or respect each other, or distancing, and so on. It just shows, and if you have this communication, if you have a community that is strong together, that lives with one another, has an open channel all the time, then it is also much more likely to do the right things, at the right time.
All right, thank you, Yannick. I think we are almost right end our session. But before doing that, I think I would like to ask you, can you share your personal stories? Like you're involved, I've seen that you have a YouTube channel, you have Twitter, and you have other social media. Tell us more about it, right? And how you are actually disseminating this knowledge. Tell your story. So you can, take your time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this question. I mean, I was very fortunate when I was young, because I had parents that I really let me do what I always loved to do. So I was really into sports. So first and foremost, I was playing hockey. This was really my focus. But this also led at me to actually to live across Switzerland, and I just realized that even within such a small country, that there are so many different culture actually that are very very different than than you actually, yeah, that for example a Swiss German, let's say. And so when I was working for a multinational, for example, in the French part of Switzerland, there I also figured out, for example, that the Swiss French, they drink different water than, for example, the Swiss German, right? So the French, they don't necessarily like the big bubbles, like the sparkling, like they like it a little bit less, for example. And obviously the way they interact with one another. So the Germans, they basically they live for work, And the French, that's kind of a saying that we have in Switzerland. The French, they work to live, for example, and this really, at some point, led me to let me kind of invoke my curiosity in other cultures and how much it enriched myself, because I grew up in a very small 400 inhabitants community, very, very small. So there were basically, we didn't had people, of different color or different languages. And so a very conservative, very small village I grew up, but due to the fact that I played hockey and I came across basically all the parts in Switzerland, I wanted to learn more, and I always wanted to live abroad. And so and yeah, so I'm very fortunate, because today my favorite food is Bengali and Indian food, for example. So I'm I'm all the time, I'm literally, I always eat spicy food, for example. So yeah, and and obviously through these encounters with different culture, different religions, I changed a lot. You change tremendously. And I just also saw at the same time that for most people it is extremely, extremely difficult to interact with other people from different faith, from different, even from, and still there's still a huge barrier. For example, for some people it's really hard even to talk to other people from, they might have a different skin color. And yeah, and and so this really led me to do something like Why Knowledge Matter, because it really helps us to reflect on our assumptions that we have uh, of others, and to really inquire ourselves more on why we think the way we think, in order to make sense of the world that we inhabit. It's a very it's very difficult on one hand, obviously, but on the other hand, it has, overall, it has incredible advantages. However, I want to say one thing. A lot of people, obviously, we are sometimes very privileged, right? So, and not all the people, they have actually this privilege to actually encounter different people from different countries, which is extremely enriching, and which absolutely changes your way how you look at things, your way, even your relationship to your family, for example. um and this is also one thing that actually not so long time ago, that I also realized, especially also due to the fact that I had these encounters with so many cultures too, where family and values and also religions is very important. And it really led me to recognize that the most important thing is really family, and really relationships. So I was someone who thought, well, that's maybe not so important, but it was also something, I mean, family, that I always had this support system, but I only realized later in life how important it was for me to actually do what I do now. If I didn't had this support system, if I didn't had this luck that I grew up in a stable family, there was no there's just still married, no divorce, and these those kind of things. It's just how important it is to me. Yeah, that made me realize, and it took some time. So I'm extremely grateful.
Thank you very much. It was a very wonderful, I think, discussion, and what you have shared, it touches, I think this is a lesson, or maybe a learning that, we all cherish, right? So I think today, we are on behalf of Prerona TV and Global Academy of Holistic Leadership, UIREC, and a global scholarship. Thank you so much for being with us. As you know, this series actually running every quite we used to do it regularly, but now we'll be being this is a regular series that we are running. We, as you know, there's a multidisciplinary team members also coming into this series. The purpose of the series actually to share our knowledge, our expertise to our community member, so that we can build an inclusive society. And as you know, there's a lot of challenges right now, so we want to grow together and see how we can help each other. So thank you again. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you, Mr. Boru. I don't know whether were network issues. Sorry that
Yeah, I'm
I
very.
think,
Mm, mm.
yeah, so we couldn't able to hear you anything at that time. So there was a lot of noise coming at the time. But thank you very much, Mr. Boru, too, for being with us. So with that,
Before you conclude, I wanna
yes,
say something.
yes,
So one thing, thank you again. I mean, Yannick, you shared a lot, and but I may request you maybe in our next session, you can show how you actually, I mean, disseminating uh, mm, your journey. I mean, why knowledge matter. So far I saw in your website there is an several interview with different, I mean, professionals, and so you can show us, and then we can more communicate with your initiative. One thing, then and then another, I mean, uh, I wanna, I mean, ask to Edward. Actually, Edward is a tremendous guy. So he is a global holistic leadership coach. He has, I mean, lots of background, and maybe Edward can share your, I mean, or introduce your a bit of introduction about you. Then audience can, because we are, I mean, save the video, then we can share. Then people can get about us. I mean, who is the Edward, who is the Yannick, and then
great.
people can get
Yeah,
more
so
interested.
for today's session actually is the introductory session. So next session will be kind of a technical session. I would prefer like maybe we can show some video, some is his YouTube channel thing, and some of his Twitter follows, and some of his experience probably storytelling kind of thing. So it will be more technical, and I will invite more people. So then they will know that. So today's session is just introduction, as I know, and definitely I will love to introduce me also, like I'm a very humble guy, so I there is nothing much to say about me. So yeah, so I guess there is a guest actually, sorry, at my door. So so with that, I will thank you, and I will leave the recording off, and then we'll talk. So let's end this session, and I will be in live, be in line. Don't leave, but I will end this session. So thank you very much. Those who are following with us, Prerona TV and Global Academy of Holistic Leadership, thank you so much for being with us. Follow us on our next sessions. And with that, I end this session. Thank you.